Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to a brand new show with our brother Jordan, myself,
Assalamu
Abdul Haqq.
alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Salam to barakatuh. How are you, brother Jordan?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. I'm good.
Ramadan
Very
Mubarak to you.
tired, very tired. Ramadan Mubarak to you.
Yeah, see, now you're saying you're tired, and first of all, we must say a good morning to you at this I won't say unearthly hour, but a good morning to you. It's midnight there for you, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning for me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah. So
there's always someone worse off, isn't there?
Yeah, well, that's right. That's right. But I thought I'm gonna be up for this particular show. Hopefully, there won't be any other shows at this time, mashallah.
Yeah, mashallah.
But Jordan, mashallah, what reason one, it's going to be unique. Two, it's coming from converts of different stages, okay, of the 21st century, you could say, 20th century for myself. And I think that there are a lot of interesting dynamics that we could bring to this show, as well as comparisons about the periods of time we became Muslim, now that we are Muslim, and the different perspectives in that work as well. So convert conundrums, it's not necessarily things that are always bad, but some things of interest, some elements where we feel there are challenges that we faced and continue to face. And so that we can share that with other converts who may have similar experience that resonate with ours, and also for established Muslims, traditional Muslims, to maybe hear some fresh perspectives and some new ideas and things that converts go through. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I'm looking forward to sort of unearthing a lot of it. And I think, like you say, it's beneficial to reverts who watch and who maybe think, I think sometimes you can think people on screen don't go through certain things, or and I think that, I think it's very important to get the message out there of what we've been through, what we've had to overcome. And I think, like you said, born Muslims as well, it's also a good message for them as well.
No, alhamdulillah. Let's look at then the title today we've agreed on, and thanks for that, is Cognitive Openings, Life Before Islam. So I think it'd be good that we explore, and this will be the edited version, of course. We explore what sort of pricked our conscience regarding Islam and what we were doing or going through. And I want to make something clear, because I know the Christian faith, when I was a Christian, practicing then non-practicing, and there's always this wonderful story, and it's expected as well from us as converts that life was miserable, and then we found the light, and then we came to Islam and everything like that. And that's not necessarily a case. Some of us were leading what we would call and consider in those times fantastic lives. We had everything. So then the story of why we became Muslim becomes even more important, and significant. So my question to you, Jordan, first and foremost, is, when did you embrace Islam?
So I embraced Islam about 4 years ago now, and I think, like you said, I was, because a lot of people ask me, "Oh, you converted to Islam? Were you depressed? Were you in prison? Did you need a girlfriend?" And none of those things were true. I think like you, I thought I was doing really well in life, and I was happy. And I think happy is probably a good word for it, because I think when I converted to Islam, happy doesn't quite describe anymore. But I was certainly happy and content in my own skin, and I thought I was a good guy. I thought if there is anything out there, I'll be fine anyway. So I certainly came from, it wasn't like I was necessarily needing anything. I didn't feel like I needed anything in my life. I think we always have that bit in the back of our head, in those, those moments on your own, you sometimes wonder. But I was living my life, buying cars, getting my first house. I thought, I'm doing well. So, yeah. No,
excellent. Similarly, where you're talking, I sold my first flat, bought my second home. I was a trainee solicitor. Had 3 jobs, one working in an estate agent on the Sunday, a trainee lawyer in my full-time job, and at night doing security at a concert venue. And life was good, life was good. I won't elaborate a bit more upon that, but as you said, I think the term to use was, I was happy.
Mm.
You know, I was happy. However, there was a spiritual gap that was actually there that kept gnawing away at me, because
Yeah.
you know, when you hear about rich people and they have everything, but yet they're not happy, they're not
Yeah.
content, should I say? And you hear of suicides, drug abuse, and everything like that. To some extent, I think that I got that, because after you've done everything, by the time I'd converted to Islam at 24, Jordan, and I've been, you said 4 years, I've been a Muslim 31 years this year, mashallah.
Mashallah.
I embraced in 1990. But
Mm.
by the time I'd hit 24, that was over a decade, because I started really young, of clubbing, night clubbing. Okay. There were under 16 discos and everything. For anyone who might think, how could he be clubbing when he was under? There was that.
Yeah.
And I actually thought tonight, I said to myself, if I thought what I'd be doing all those years ago at this time of the morning on a Thursday, I'd probably be in a nightclub.
Yeah.
And that's just one of the places. And again, this is a censored version, so we won't go into the other things. But for me, there wasn't that I'm depressed and I'm unhappy, but it was that gnawing spiritually that I was like, what's going on here? And the way I was living my life was like, well, when my friend, and I will talk about that shortly, when I was asked that fundamental question that made me make the decision, I might not be around today if I'd continued that lifestyle.
Yeah. And I guess it's similar for me. I often wonder that as well. Like, without Islam, what would I be doing now? And I think you're right. I would have continued as I was, like you say, clubbing lifestyle, all sorts of stuff that you shouldn't be doing. And yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm often very grateful I did find Islam, because I think I often, because like you, I did it for a good couple of decades, and you wonder where it leads. I'll tell you one thing I always had. I did always have a sort of an envy for religious people. I used to think, wow, I wish I had that kind of belief that they have, and I did have that little envy inside me, but I just thought it was all it was all kind of man-made stuff that's good for them. So, yeah,
I get that, and I think having gone to Roman Catholic school, my parents pulled me out of a comprehensive school in Clapham Common, Henry Thornton School it was at the time, because one, it wasn't stimulating me from an intellectual perspective. They saw that, okay, I'm doing well in my grades. The school wanted to move me up a year, and I didn't want that because my brother was in the same year. In that second year, he was a year older than me. So they moved me to a Roman Catholic school, which I thought was going to be this holier than thou environment, and it wasn't. They swore like troopers. I was the only black guy in my class for a number of years, but established some really good friends from there. Still have them, mashallah. But for me, it was like, the challenge for me was I always wanted more. And Allah speaks about that in the Quran. I always wanted more. And when it gets to the stage, Jordan, to be frank with you, in your young early 20s or teenage, when you're waking up in various countries in Europe and you just don't know where you are. That happened to me a few times. I'm like, whoa, where am I? It was like that. So for me, that was getting spiraling out of control to an extent. And on that same, by the age of 24, I'd done virtually everything I wanted to do. In evidence of that is one of my close friends, Jesus JC, we used to call him, Spanish friend. When I caught up with him years later, and I've told this story before because I was told, my brother told me one year he passed by my mum's home, he was looking for me because he's thinking about Islam. And I was like, brilliant. When was that? Where was he? And my brother goes, oh, it's about a year ago. I was like, so why are you telling me now? So I searched the directory, I found him. And we met up, and he still wanted to become Muslim. He said he took his shahada at home alone and everything. And I said to him, so all these years now, we're talking, I think 10 years, 15 years after I embraced Islam. I said, so look, we were in the same circles doing the same things. And he said to me, you know what, Tony, which you to call me, he goes, you know what, Tony, T. He said, you know everything we did by the time you became Muslim? He said, yeah. He goes, I just carried on doing more of the same thing. There is nothing else for us to do. And that was something that hit him. He said, look, and he had a lot. He was doing a lot, doing well for himself, still is. But he said, nothing changed from when you became a Muslim 10, 15 years ago. And that shows how, I would say, hedonistic my lifestyle was, how worldly orientated it was. But
Yeah.
all of that still was not enough for the soul, as you're indicating. And I want to give a shout out first, Jordan. I know we're on your platform. Salams to walaikum salam to all the familiar faces who come onto the other show. I'm pleased to be with Jordan. We've been talking about this for quite a while, mashallah, tabarakallah. And here we are.
Yeah, and I think it's been a beautiful collaboration, because I think, you know, all of my subscribers have been blessed to have you guys on here.
No, you're too kind.
So often it's been amazing. So yeah,
so let me ask then, Jordan. So okay, was there any time where you felt something stoked your memory or your mind with, like, one, I don't want to be here, or two, I need to be doing something different to this? Like, was it in a nightclub experience? Was it a period of reflection? And did that happen to you more than once?
Yeah, I think so. And I think often, see, when I look back over my life, I often think that you have those moments, for example, when you wake up in the morning after a clubbing night or something like that, and you get these moments, don't you, where you just think, what was that really worth it? What am I really doing? And then you kind of zone back into it. And I think you sort of point on it there. And when you said it, I was wondering, why did I used to do that? And I think you're replacing something, a void in your life, aren't you, by doing all of these things, by maybe intoxications, by getting attention from people. You're sort of replacing things in your life, aren't you?
No, absolutely. And I think, like, talking about that, about the intoxication, trust me, that happened quite a few times, I think, as you can imagine. And it wasn't until I came to the Dean and I read something, and I say this often in the lectures I give over the years, but when I read that intoxication with alcohol is a better calamity than intoxication with life. And we know that intoxication with alcohol is haram, it's forbidden. And it says, because with intoxication with alcohol, you can wake up the next morning and have a hangover and complain about the grogginess and being sick and everything like that. But with intoxication of life, you only sober up in the grave. And that really hit me. And I get that completely, because we know what it's like to be intoxicated and wake up in the morning. And thankfully, we've woken up in the morning. But for me, as I said, it was... Did I have some moments? Yes. You know, I've kept a diary of mine from, 1985/86. I don't keep many diaries, but that one I kept. And I'm not going to go into detail about it, but when I reflect upon it, I know when I had looked at the musings that I used to make in the back of the diary, because I used to, when I was on my way back by ferry from Europe and reflecting on what had gone on in Europe, when I was on my way to Europe and reflecting, and I was talking about God. And I was saying, look, I know that I need to do something about God. I need to, I'm settling down with someone that I love. And so I need to stop everything else that I'm doing and pondering. And I think traveling across and being able to have that time, because ferry was very slow. There was no channel at the time, and no channel tunnel at the time, and reflect on aspects of the creation, traveling across the sea, for example. And sometimes when it was a bit choppy, or sometimes that I couldn't travel because they're saying it's too rough to travel, things like that. Then traveling through south of France, when I was doing the particular shows that I was doing, and seeing at night, like when we were traveling in the car from one show to another, thousands of people, nightclubs, most beautiful.
I did the south of France. It's fantastic.
It is Saint-Tropez, and so when we were going across south of France, and at night it really got me, because I'd see the palm trees. I'd see thousands upon thousands of stars when we were going through some of the terrain that we was going through. And while my friends were doing whatever, drinking, smoking, just having a laugh about the show we'd just done, or sleeping because was going back to our hotel with our chauffeur and everything, taking us, we were chauffeur driven everywhere. I'd be thinking, like, this is amazing. God's put this here for a reason. That's what I'd be thinking. Wow. So I kept having moments where this kept coming back to me like that.
It's funny you say that. And I do remember, I think across my life, I never ever really denied God. So I think most sensible people would probably look around, you know, like you say, you have those moments, you think, where did all this come from? This can't all be by chance. And I did often have those moments, and it's interesting to have this conversation with you because it sort of brings a lot of memories back that I haven't really spoken about to many people. But yeah, I definitely had those, and then like I say, you kind of put it to the back of your mind, don't you, and you just carry on. And I guess it's your fiddler, isn't it? It's even there. I think even in the most staunch atheists, it's still there, pumping away. And when I look back over my life, it was definitely there, but I certainly managed to cover it up well. And to be honest, I look at young men like 24. When I was 24, I don't think I was asking myself the big questions as much. And I really respect people that converted that, it took me sort of to the age of 34 to really look into it. But yeah, I speak to some brothers that have converted at 17, 18. I think that's amazing when you consider what 17, 18-year-olds are doing nowadays.
Some of my, some would say gang now, the younger lot who we met, they were from Croydon, we were from Tooting, Southwest London, and they converted. Some of them were around 17, 18 when they converted. And I think the gang life that we were in and they'd been in before they met us was one of the things that propelled it. And being with older individuals, I think, like ourselves, I think at 24, I knew or felt that something drastic was going to happen. I'd already been, by 17, 18, 19, I was in and out of hospital. They were saying it was stress. Even when, for example, on one occasion, when I was in for a week, all sorts of problems. They thought I had a ruptured appendicitis or rumbling appendicitis. And they kept me in for a week and were doing checks. And so the doctor said that at the end of 1 week, he said, look, we've been taking your blood tests. And he said, you still got alcohol in your system a week later.
Wow.
And I was like, my mum was there and she's sort of looking at me. And I was like, really? I tried to you still got alcohol in your system. Passing blood in my urine also. So they were like, what are you doing? What sort of lifestyle are you leading? And my girlfriend was there, now my wife, and she's sort of looking at me like, you've got to slow down. I was like, so I've got out of hospital. As soon as I got out of hospital, I was like, no, off again. My friends were there, drugs in one hand, alcohol in the other. Off we go, night clubbing. That's just what we did. So I suppose when this dawned on me, and I bought my second home, as I said, my fiance was now my common law wife, if you like. She was expecting. And I said to myself, if I carry on how I am carrying on, I won't be around. And with some of the skirmishes and clashes that we had, I'd either be killed or would have done that and ended up in jail. And I thought, so it came at a time where it was a critical moment. But as I've grown in the Dean, I've realized just how critical it was at that time. Okay. And that's how Allah guides us. When Allah guides us, some of it's gradual, some of it's sudden, but if he's chosen us, he's going to bring us away from a finality that we don't even know we're on the precipice of. You know that hadith where it says that you were on the brink of the fire, and Allah says in the Quran, and then you were saved. And that hadith that you behave like the inhabitants of the hellfire until you're a handspan from it, and then you become Muslim, and vice versa. You are a Muslim and you're a handspan from the Jannah, and you start behaving like the people of the inhabitants of the hellfire, and you move in that direction. Hopefully that's what happened to us, where that hadith applies to us in the former sense, not the latter. But and may Allah keep us upon guidance. But that's the sort of feeling I was having, Jordan, at that time. So yes, it was young, but for me, it was like I felt old when I took Shahada because of the life experiences I had by that time.
Yeah, it sounds like you grew up really fast, and you're maybe faster than I did. But mashallah. No, definitely. I think, I'm trying to think back. I mean, like I say, I haven't really had this sort of conversation with anyone, so it's really interesting going back over in my mind, sort of how I felt. And one thing I wanted to ask you actually, while I was doing all of this stuff, like you say, whether it's intoxicants, whether it's doing things you shouldn't do with ladies or whatever it is, in my mind, I genuinely thought I was morally a good guy. And I often look back and think, on what standard was I comparing myself to? I generally believed, and when I look back now, into, that was someone else's daughter. That was, I shouldn't be doing that. I gave that to that person. I gave that advice to that young person. I think, subhanAllah, the messed up mind that I had back then. And I often wonder, how did I ever get like that? And, it must be, for me, it's a society thing, isn't it? You sort of, back then I was judging myself upon what society standards were. Whereas obviously now, completely different shift. When I look back, it's quite scary looking back. It is quite scary. No, the other thing I was going to say as well is that I get a lot of born Muslims speaking to me, and often it'll be a private conversation, whether it's in Speaker's Corner or anything like that. And they'll say to me in a way where they're envious of, oh, you've done all that. You're lucky. You're really lucky that you've done all of that. And I think a lot of born Muslims have this idea that the grass is greener, and they maybe go past a pub and see all the people inside having a good time. Whereas for me and you, we know how sort of temporary and fake that life is. And for me personally, I don't know if it's the same with you. Whilst I may have benefited from the experience I've had, if I could take it all back and just have a pure existence and not have all that in my past, I would do it. I would do it because many of the things you do still live with you. Even to now, it still lives with you.
No, Jordan, that's a really profound point you've made. And I'm glad that you've raised that, because you're saying that things are coming up that you haven't spoken about, and you're initiating thought that I sort of put into the recess of my mind. So, for example, yes, I felt as well that I'm morally a good guy. One of the sort of mottos of my gang, if you like, was don't hurt anyone unless they hurt you. Okay. Yeah. And so that's how everything we did regarding violence or whatever was retaliatory. Okay. Yeah. It was always retaliatory. And we were quite well known for that. But at the end of the day, when I look, as I said, I told you I'm waking up in different parts of Europe and around the country, and I'm not knowing where I am. And I'll say, frankly, who I'm with. That's how bad things were in that sense there. And I thought I was morally upright, because anyone who was holding on to religion, I had opportunities to date, and when I went to church one time, and others saw, oh, who's this rogue coming to church on a Sunday? And I saw this particular ladies gravitate towards me, and I was like, okay. But then I realized they're interested in me, and I thought, no, I can't behave like I'd usually behave, because these are spiritually and morally upright individuals. And it was the same with Muslims. Now, I didn't have any Muslims in my circle. Except the one individual, but he was very like us. He wasn't practicing or anything like that. Yeah. And he never spoke to us about religion until the end, when he saw what was happening and sort of thought processes we were going through. So I'd see Muslim girls, or I wouldn't know they were Muslim. I saw South Asian girls, should I say. I saw Arab girls, and I knew they had a faith. So I thought, no, inside me was that. So maybe it's fitra, like, no, you can't go there. When I was touring Europe and everything like that, and saw them in nightclubs and everything, even though they were in my environment, there was something that said to me, no. And always, and I mean that, when they'd say their names, or Yasmin, or, I'm not saying everyone called Yasmin is a Muslim, or Nadia or whatever, but when I'd look at the background and you could see that they were, as I said, Arab or South Asian or whatever, I'd be polite, talk with them, and politely let down if there was any intimations or interest in that way. I'd let it down, because something inside me was like, don't go there. But then if I met, I don't want to say names, it's going to be slanderous to say that, but if I met someone,
Tracy,
Tracy or Selena or whatever, then it'd be like, nah, they're from my world. We're in the same circles. No guilt, no conscience. To an extent, though, because sometimes you'd feel they want more from a relationship, and you don't want that. Sometimes I try and indicate that. Other times you wouldn't. It was just who you were. So those elements there, what you've highlighted there about being a good guy, morally good guy, and that was our values. Like, at least I don't do this. At least I don't do that. This is what makes me good. I don't steal. I didn't lie then. I don't lie. I don't rob. I don't abuse. So therefore, according to society, I'm a good guy.
Yeah, that's right. And I think interesting, and I don't think I was a liar, but I think, and I don't know how, obviously don't want to go into too much detail, but I think that when we talk about relationships between men and women, I believe, I remember being back in primary school, and I remember holding girls' hands and things like that, and thinking, and being very innocent and things like that. But I remember over time, society conditions you into men are supposed to chat up women. And part of that is lying, part of that is tricking, part of that is smoozing, part of that is, and that's part of the culture. And you're supposed to do that. And when I look back, that's encouraged to you and things like that. It's kind of the James Bond culture, isn't it? As opposed to that family man that looks at, that loyal husband that looks after his kids. That no longer was the role model when I was younger. That wasn't, your mates, that if that becomes you, your mates think you're a bit of a loser. It was, you sort of develop this culture, don't you, where your mates high five you if you manage to get with the prettiest girl or anything like that.
Right. No, absolutely. And I think what you're saying here from I'm not my school life.
I got to be careful how much detail we go into.
Yeah, no, my school. What I saw when I was at primary school. And I won't go into detail, but we were, and that upsets me because we were corrupted from a young age. We were sort of being exposed to. You asked if I've grown up very quickly. Yes. Some of the things that we've been exposed to and everything. And for me, yes, the man was supposed to be the maintainer and everything. And we'll talk about chivalry in a moment because that's obviously gone from what I'm seeing in society today. And then I'll explain when I realised that had gone.
Agree.
That's been taken as an offence if you are chivalrous. But also in our time as well, it got to the stage where the tables were being turned. We were being approached by women. Women come approaching and saying, I really like you, and buying your drink, and can I buy you a drink, and like, oh, okay, and being chatted up. But so that was going on as well. And some of us became lazy. I'll be honest with you. I'm not saying that in bravado. Some of us are like, I'm just going to chill. Let's see what happens tonight. And friends with our friends and stuff will be like, such and such is watching. Let's see if she's going to come over. And they would by the end of the evening. And obviously you're big-headed and like, we got it like that, as we used to say. So there was that sort of thing there. And again, you're right. I've got a younger sister. Alhamdulillah, she's Muslim now, and I was very protective of her. And when we used to go to nightclubs, no one would come near our women. Let's put literally, they'd be like, if someone did, you'd see a circle of 15, 16, 20 friends literally circling, and basically, you don't want to do this. This is our friend's girlfriend or our friend's sister and everything. And I know that my sister found that somewhat stifling to an extent as well, because she wanted to be attractive. She wanted to see that there were others interested, but others were just too scared to even go in amongst our circle because, that's Tibi's sister in that instance there. So the point I'm making is that, we wouldn't have wanted that for our sisters. We won't want that for our daughters.
100%.
But yet we were in that world, doing and receiving that sort of attention that we would kick off about with a sibling of ours.
I remember I think it was Snoop Dogg that was asked that, because when you think of how women are spoken about within their music industry, right, in terms of just pop culture, any kind of how people refer to women. Right. I remember someone asked him, what if that was, they were talking about your family member in that way, and he couldn't answer it, and that's one of the I think that's one of the hypocrisies when I look back, and that's one of the big things. And we'll go into obviously why I converted to Islam. It was because I had a female family member being raised as a Muslim, and it really changed my perspective, of a woman, of how women should be treated. And then, we know growing up how we treated women, we know how society treats women. And so that was a big part for me into my journey into Islam.
Now, let me ask you on that then. So when you saw that, how did it make you feel seeing a female family member embracing the religion? How did that make you feel?
Good point. And this is probably where we can maybe compare stories, in the sense that I was actually pretty ignorant to Islam, to the point where, all I'd seen on the media was grooming gangs, terrorism. And I was the sort of guy that Tommy Robinson made sense to me, and so I was along that line of thinking. So when Islam was in my family, I mean, my sister had accepted it years ago, but we'd fallen out. But when my little niece was being raised, I didn't want it. I was thinking, she's going to be oppressed. She's going to have to cover. These are all things that for me were very bad. She's going to have to, she might meet a husband that's going to treat her terribly. And these were the sort of misconceptions I had in my mind. And so for me, that was when I started to really think I've got to look into this religion so that I can tell my mum, you know, who had been her grandma, you know, we got to do something. You know, it was my love for my niece, not wanting her to be Muslim, was how I started looking into it. Because otherwise, I don't think I would ever look into religion, to be honest. It never really interested me enough for me to pick up a Quran or even a Bible,
Right.
to be honest. So
that you know what, sticking with females, and that's just reminded me of an experience myself. I had I won't say, well, you could say a childhood friend. She wasn't a childhood friend. It's my first infatuation, I suppose, when I met at one of these under 15 discos or whatever in Merton. And her name was Jackie. I'm not going to give her full name. And I remember and she's a really nice individual. And I would go out and visit her mum and her sister in Carshalton, which was skinhead, white dominated. And I eventually went to college out in that area anyway. And well, I was infatuated with her, but we became very close friends, even though we weren't in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. Sure. And she became very close to my present wife now. But I remember when I tried to go back into Christianity, for example, and I'd go to church, and another friend of mine, Sam, he's now living in New Zealand. If he's watching evening or morning to you, Sam. And one day, because we were bonded so well, when we started going to college a few years later, I said, look, come and see why we believe in God and everything like that. And I remember she came to one of the services just to see. And she said to me, look, I don't really believe in God. I know it's something for you and Sam and you like it and everything like that. It's a nice story, but I just don't believe. Okay. So it's like, okay, fair enough. We kept our friendship. But then years later, she called me. I was working in the legal profession in Holborn. And she called me one day and she goes, Tony, can I come and see you? I said, yeah, no problem. So she came and met me at work. We went for a coffee. It was raining. I had my umbrella, my nice umbrella and everything like that. So suited and booted, working in legal profession. And she had a scarf, a wrap on her head. And I thought, it's, you know how the old ladies wear scarves because it's raining. You know, they just put a wrap. And it looked similar to that. Maybe it wasn't, but it looked like that to me. So I thought, she's only wearing that because it's raining. So we sat in the coffee shop, was talking away, and she was a bit hesitant. And Jackie's quite an outgoing, bubbly individual. What a white girl, really nice, mashallah tabarakallah. And she, so I was thinking she hasn't taken the scarf off, and maybe because we're going back out shortly and everything. And she said, Tony, got something to tell you. And I was like, yeah, what's up, Jackie? You know, we're close and everything like that. She goes, I've become Muslim. So I looked at her. I was like, okay. And like, I didn't even know what Muslim was. Like, good on you. What? So you found the faith, yeah, believe in God. And I was sort of thinking, okay, it's not the God we believe in, because we talked to you about Christianity, even though I'm far away from Christianity.
Was there much Islamophobia back then? Was it as it is now? Or no,
it wasn't. Yeah. But she told me that she'd gone to Tunisia, she'd met someone there, and she liked him a lot. He liked her. He basically, she saw what his faith was, so she came back to the UK, like a lot of women do, like a lot of men do when they've met someone. She looked into religion, she converted, and she actually told me, look, we're getting married. And I was like, whoa, this is really quick. I didn't want to say to her, though, this is going really quick. So it goes, we're doing the Muslim ceremony first. And she said, then we're going to have the meal at the Serpentine in Regent's Park and everything. Wow. Now, remember, Islam was not on my radar, Jordan, at all, you know. So she said, look, you're close to me. I'd like you and Sam to come. So we went to that thing, that event. For me, it was interesting because the men were all on one side of the table. We sat on a massive table. We had the main area in the Serpentine restaurant, and the women were on the other side. And we were talking, and it was a really nice occasion. Now, I've never experienced that in my life, where there was segregation in that way. Women on one side, men on the other side. Some of us who are more strict wouldn't have it like that, but this was a practicing Muslim, and it was a very nice evening. I was like, this is really nice that there wasn't any flirting. I wasn't eyeing up any woman and thinking, oh, okay, what can happen here or whatever. Which is really nice conversation. They were the focus of attention. She looked happier than I'd ever seen her and everything. Clearly in love with her. So I left it at that. Sam and I went to this really nice event. Bit odd, not sitting next to women, everything like that. But she's happy. We're really happy. When I became Muslim, and I realized this is the same faith. And I hadn't spoken to her now for a few years. Was able to contact her, and she was almost couldn't contain herself on the phone.
I can imagine.
Realized I became Muslim, and she was saying, have you done this? Have you done that? And then she was the one actually who helped me, because I remember Ramadan had come, and I'd taken Shahada, I think, just before Ramadan. So she'd ring me at work. How are you? This, and I was like, good. And then that's what I think. And Eid had come. She goes, so what are you doing for Eid? I was like, what? She goes, Eid. So I said, I'm at work. She goes, it's Eid. We're celebrating this. I was like, oh, okay. So I went down to the mosque and saw it was Eid and everything. So that was my experience. And mashallah, I saw her for a few years while we're in the Deen and everything. She invited me for iftar, met her husband. Actually, there's an individual we'll talk about another time who is very famous now for the wrong reasons, who was there, and it's the three of us having iftar and stuff. Omar Bakri, it was having iftar, for example, and I heard what he was saying was I liked what he was saying. I'm going to say this for the first new Muslim. It was quite revolutionary about the government, and that's like, yeah, this is where we come from. But it's when I went back to the mosque, I said, no, this is not the right belief and everything. But it was Hesba Tahrir. I haven't seen her since I saw her one Eid a few years later in Regent's Park, and we saw each other. And the sad thing is, because of factionalism, the practice that I was upon, the practice she was upon, it wasn't a very nice exchange, polite exchange. And to this day, that hurts me, and I've not seen her since, and I'd love to find out where she is. I've actually spoken to individuals that might be affiliated to her and everything like that, and her husband. But it's what, 26, 27, 28 years now since I last saw her. But that experience of her becoming a Muslim, and I'm sorry I've gone on a bit, and then me not even knowing, it didn't connect at all until later. That was, I realized psychologically that was another part of my journey towards Islam.
That's interesting. So was it the happiness or the way she behaved that struck you at all, or was it something like that, or
a dignity and a self-assuredness and upright? She was always confident, but then I saw an inner calm in her, you know, that wasn't there before. There was this nervous energy that I've got to go out and get. I've got to go out and achieve. I've got to realize things. I'm a woman who's got to do this. And there was that nervous energy that she had, and yearning, but not quite knowing what she was yearning for. And when she had a boyfriend, she put all her effort into that boyfriend. We were friends, and if I felt a boyfriend was taking advantage of her, I'd be there to advise her and be close to her and everything. And then Islam came, and while she still had that yearning, she had a certainty about her that I was like, I want some of that.
And that's and I'm glad you brought that up, because every convert story I've heard has a Muslim in there that exactly what you said. I want what they're on. You know, they've been that example. They've been that, and it always, whenever I hear a convert story, it's always a message to all of us of how our behavior, how we carry ourselves, is so important, because we don't know who we're going to impact. You know, who we're going to impact by us being Muslim. Our behavior, our act of kindness, anything like that can really have an effect on someone, you know, like yourself, who, you know, and now look what you've become in the Muslim world. As a subhanAllah, it's really, like I said, I've never heard a convert story without a Muslim in there somewhere that has sparked their interest due to the way they behave, their behavior.
No, absolutely. And be careful there, because I'm like Marmite. I've got those who love me and those who hate me.
Okay. All right.
But no, but you don't realize that at the time. This is the thing. I know that I met a friend. Well, it wasn't a friend in primary school. When I look at some of the pictures in primary school, there's someone called Arif, and he was South Asian. And I remember one day I was walking down Tooting High Road, and he saw me, and I must have been wearing a topi or a cap, Muslim skull cap or whatever. And we used to see each other, but we'd never say hello, because primary school is primary school. We're in secondary school. And he came up to me, did a beeline for me, and he said, are you Muslim? And so I looked at him, and I was actually angry. And I thought, hold on, we've lived in Tooting, primary school. I'm a young adult now in my 20s. We've seen each other regularly, and we don't even speak to each other. But you've seen I'm wearing something now. Are you Muslim? I looked at him. I said, yeah. And I gave him a bit of a mouthful, and I said, why didn't you lot ever talk to us about Islam? You know, why didn't you ever talk to us? And he didn't know what to say. I said, you lot have had a religion. No one talked to me about Islam. I had to go and find out for myself. And had you spoken to us about Islam, so what you said about the younger individuals who become Muslim, that's why I say to my children, and they don't understand it. They look at my lifestyle, they find out from uncles and people about my background, and it's like, wow, Dad, you were road, you were gangster. It's like, no, why are you saying that? But no, you were cool, people think you're cool. I said, no. I said, every one of you is better than me. I said, you know, you've learned Quran, you've been pure, you've prayed from a young age. I said, do you know what I, like you, Jordan, do you know what I would give to have grown up praying as a child, knowing Tawheed as a child? Not, I committed shirk. I was committing shirk with Allah. I was worshipping Jesus. I was worshipping Mary. I was worshipping the Holy Spirit. I was going to Catholic church and saying all manners of prayers. And even aside from the religious aspect of the shirk that's done in the name of religion, I was worshipping money, alcohol, hedonism. And I said to my children, whoa, pull the brakes on. Tonight I prayed behind my second youngest son, who's 16, and he's reading with tilawah of the Quran and everything. And it softens my heart to say, do you know what? I wish I was like that. I wish I grew. And when they're trying to push to go to where we were, I'm like, you've got it. You have got it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's a really powerful message, because I think often reverts get a lot of people jealous of them. You know, are you guys, you got your slate wiped clean, you've lived another life, and now, mashallah, you were chosen and things like that. But I'm like you, I envy the born Muslim that's grown up learning all the surahs. You know, while I'm struggling to learn a basic surah, you know, born Muslims are learning all the surahs. For Eid, they spend time with their families. Their parents are Muslim. I often look at a born Muslim, their life, and I'm envious, you know, of that. So, and I'm glad you mentioned that as well, because I think I think you agreed. I would take it all back to have a different life growing up. You know, to have that pure Islamic. As opposed to, you know, what I've been through, even though I think we've both probably become strong from our past and we've learned from it, I would certainly give it up for an Islamic upbringing, for sure.
No, absolutely. And I think one important thing to share with born Muslims now, and someone saying you were born Muslims, you just moved from your fitra, that's why we used to say revert. I understand that. But we slip as Muslims, as converts as well. And I'll be frank, I don't know about you, Jordan. It impacts much more heavily on me as a convert Muslim than I've seen. But I'm only talking about perception with what I see from born Muslims in that instance. Brothers, men I'm talking about, like for like. So when we do slip in whatever way it might be, the impact is so much. It's longer lasting. Like it can be from a few years ago. It can be from a few years ago. It can be from recent. It's like, I don't want to go back there. How's this happened to me? And the guilt just gnaws at you. I don't know if you feel that.
Yeah, I think I agree with you with that. No, I do agree.
For me, that's always going to be an alarming thing. In that, so when they say, okay, you're converts and your slate's white clean and everything like that, but you know the level of wrong you were doing before Muslim, and if you remotely slip into that, or whatever it might be, not that we drink alcohol anymore, maybe a thought even, okay, that connection back to Jahiliyyah, if it's 4 years, 31 years or whatever, is so strong that it's and I'll say this, Jordan, I know converts who have stopped practicing because of that. They've said, look, what am I practicing for? I've gone back to this, or I slipped in this way here.
It could be a minor sin, couldn't it? A minor sin, and it's thrown them off the edge. And I think we brought it up before, I think before we came online, is because one of the issues, you know, especially if people are watching often, and I thought this way, when you're looking into Islam, before your Shahada, you kind of feel like you have to be the perfect Muslim. And many people delay their Shahada because they're not ready in whatever aspect in life. And I think as converts, when we come into it, I think we do put those expectations of ourselves that, right, we've embraced this religion now, we must be the perfect Muslim. And I agree with you. Whereas I think perhaps, maybe not all, but majority of born Muslims I know, there isn't that kind of pressure they put themselves under. I think that's quite an important message to try and get out there for dawah, is you know, if you believe in the Prophet, peace upon him and Allah, if you believe everything in Islam, you shouldn't delay your shahada, but just because you're not yet a perfect person, you know, and that's
Absolutely.
something. And you know, the other thing is, so I know I'm going on another one, is where, as a revert, when you come into the deen as well, is when you see Muslims that aren't practicing, it's hard, isn't it? It's kind of like,
Oh yes.
you look around,
yes.
people, why aren't you going to Jummah? You don't pray. I don't understand, and it takes you a while to sort of realize, doesn't it, that I think that's another sort of convert thing that we have.
And Jordan, on top of that, from a dawah perspective as well, beautiful things that you said there, Jazakallah khair for mentioning them. One of the things that made me come to the deen is like when I was a Christian, and they said, look, God forgives all, and basically it got to say you can do what you like and God forgives all, and I was like, whoa. And so I'd be when I became a born again Christian, I'd go to church, and then I'd be raving the night before, and I'd see some of the Christians there and getting down and everything, and then we'd be in church Sunday afterwards, and I'd like, this is hypocritical. I felt like a hypocrite. So then, but then what? And so you basically said, no, God forgives, Jesus, whatever, as I said. But then that worried me about Islam, and I said, when I embrace this religion, I don't want to mess up at all.
Yeah.
But then I was shown by my teachers, mashallah, one of them, Sirat Rahimahullah, that Allah is oft forgiving. And when I read in Surah Nisa, ayat 116, and it's ayat 48 and ayat 116, and I hold on to these verses, that Allah forgives all except that shirk is committed with him. So I looked at that, and I remember us speaking to scholars and speaking to established Muslims, and said, yes, this is true. Allah forgives all. Now that mercy, that rahmah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is what keeps me going. When you hear the hadith about Allah, how happy he is at the servant seeking forgiveness, and if we were ones that didn't seek forgiveness, he would destroy us and bring another
replace us.
So for seeing that mercy, that alone, Jordan, that alone keeps me going. And so for those who are thinking of becoming Muslim and they don't want to mess up on their slate or whatever, Allah is oft forgiving. And he's al-Wadud, most loving and oft forgiving, and that's what keeps me going on the deen.
And we've got you know, I've had for years now, people, Muslims have said to me, you're so lucky you had your slate wiped clean on your shahada. But Dr. Imran put a reminder on EFDAL the other day with a hadith from the Prophet, peace upon him, about, you know, because obviously Ramadan is all about forgiveness. But there is a hadith to say, you know, you get an opportunity to get your slate wiped clean every year, you know, during this holy month. So, you know, born Muslims have had the same opportunity every year. It's whether we take it or not.
And even more than that, Jordan, even more than that, there are du'as that we can say. And when we're doing azkar, dhikr in the morning, you know, saying la ilaha illallah, sitting in the same place that you've prayed without moving, saying that 10 times in the morning. And this is authentic reflections. And there are other du'as of reflection for istighfar and everything like that. So you're right. The fact for me, as I said, why am I still here? The fact that Allah forgives and continues to forgive, subhanAllah.
SubhanAllah. Yeah.
You know? So mashallah, what's nice about this, Jordan, is that this is a different dynamic. We've done one show together with EF Dawah. It's good to see that they're here and everything. But I think here, being able to reflect as converts at different stages of our journey will, I think, provoke memories and thoughts in the way that we're doing. And your story is, I think every one of our stories are interesting in and of themselves in their own right. And I hope that the born Muslims who are listening are taking something from this, that you don't want to go where we've come from. And when we see you there, whether we were Muslims, non-Muslims before, and especially since we've become Muslims, that sinking feeling, that hurt that we have in our chest, to see you there, because we know what it looks like being there. When Allah talks about bringing us from dhulumat ila nur, dhulumat is dark, levels of darkness. Okay, it's translated a lot to be darkness, or some say darknesses. But dhulumat, when you look at the proper translation, is levels of darkness, depths of darkness. Okay, and light is singular. And you and I can relate to depths of darkness, Jordan,
Yeah.
okay? Different levels of darkness. And trying to come out from one level only to find more darkness.
Yeah.
Not knowing that it's a different shade, it's not a different shade, but you don't know, there's no light. When we were in Jahiliyyah, there was no light. There were those depths of darkness. And wallahi, when I came to the deen, that light was like, you see a light at the end of the tunnel. You've got black, dark surroundings around you. You keep a focus on that light. And when you come out, bam, you're in this stream, this atmosphere of light all around you.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like for me when I came to the deen and I came out of my Jahiliyyah. I don't know if you have a similar depiction. There was light all around me. The truth was there in its totality.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. In many ways, it was overnight sort of perceptions shift of many things, and I agree with you. It was like that. It was like exactly as you're describing it, and like you say, the really important message I think you said there is, you know, for born Muslims. I mean, not obviously they're not thinking of doing it, but for born Muslims not to go where we've been, because like I say, I get so many people saying, if I knew where, if I, you know, you understand what it's like on the other side, so you've got an advantage. I'm not sure, because I don't know if you're like this. That when you take your shahada, your sins are wiped clean. But I still often think about what I've done in my past, the hurt I've caused to other people. It hits me quite a lot. And even though I know I may have been forgiven for that, it still kind of hits me, and it still stays with you, an element of it. And you know, I think for me, I don't know if it's for you. It's often a constant work I have to do to keep myself with that light around me. You know.
No, absolutely. That's one of the reasons I moved with my family abroad to Saudi. Now I'm in Dubai and everything, because I felt I needed to be in a different environment. And there's nothing more alarming, and it's a blessing in that instance. I've had people come to me as a Muslim. They said, "You don't remember us, do you?" I was like, "No." It goes, "You did this to us. Your gang did this to us. You put this one in hospital. You did such and such." And I'm looking at them, waiting to see, okay, is this what's going to happen now? Is this payback time or whatever? But they themselves have become Muslim. And they've said, "We're really glad that you've become Muslims, because many of us wanted to be among you. But when we weren't among you, being your enemy, we tasted the consequences of that." And there were others who said, "We really wanted to, we were waiting to have this confrontation with you, basically to test themselves." And I was like, whoa, that's deep. And then, like in the ayats in the Quran where Allah talks about the Aws and the Khazraj, the two warring factions in Medina, how he brought their hearts together and everything. And I think to myself, look at that. I've got people who were enemies before Islam coming and saying, and I don't know them, we did what we did and we moved on. And they're coming and saying, "Do you remember this?" And you feel the sense of guilt, Jordan, that, yeah, I vaguely remember that we did this. I vaguely remember that this happened. So yeah, the guilt of what was there. And that's why that hadith about Iman, you would hate to return to Jahiliyyah. That's one of the fears of being a Muslim with Iman. And may Allah increase you and me and all of us in Iman. I mean, and there is that fear. So when we see Muslims trying to emulate that non-Muslim lifestyle, the hedonism, the gangsterism, the women trying to become like the women, their depiction of what they consider beautiful and everything like that. What they don't know is that they're removing the light from them.
That's right.
They're removing the light from them. And I'll come back, I'll hand it over to you shortly. But one case I remember as a Muslim, there was a sister who came to us for help. Okay. And the brothers who called me, I was up north at the time, and they said, "Look, can we keep a sister in the mosque? She needs protection." And we said, "What's happened?" Like, basically, she'd come down to London. I won't say from which city. Her father was a prominent author and everything like that, known in the Muslim community, and not from our generation, your or my generation. And she'd gone into hedonism, and she got caught up and was doing things that are just abhorrent. But when she tried to escape from that, the individuals that had basically taken control of her mind and her soul started becoming very violent with her. And when she escaped from them, she found our mosque, Brixton Mosque. She came in there. She said, brother saw her, said, Abdul Haqq, she's Muslim. She's really in a bad state. They mentioned the people who she was with, and it's like, yeah, okay, these are a nasty bunch of people. Okay, keep her in the mosque. They had to stay 24/7 in the men's area, make sure that the sisters area was protected from outside and inside. And they were amazed and said, what's wrong? I said, Abdul Haqq, she started teaching us Quran from behind the screen. Her recitation is amazing.
Wow.
And they were just shocked by her level of her recitation, everything.
Yeah.
And they could see how broken she was, that she'd gone so far into that dhulumat, but she'd retained her Quran when she wanted to get out of it.
Yeah.
So I'm telling this story because when I came into the Muslim community, South Asian community, it was my first experience because I didn't mix with the South Asian community at all. When I saw the amount of individuals non-practicing and leaving the deen and practicing a way of life that we'd come from, as I said again, dhulumat has layers of darkness, and you can't choose which layer you're going to be in, and you can't see which layer you've sunk to. We know that Yunus alayhi salam, when he was casting of the lots and he had to be cast into the sea, and Allah mentions there the depths of darkness upon darkness that Yunus was plunged into when he went into the belly of the well. And at that point, he realized his wrongdoing in leaving the people who chosen to give dawah to. He said, La ilaha illa ant subhanaka inni kuntu min adh-dhalimin. One of the most powerful du'as of forgiveness that you can say. And he said that dua when he was in the belly of the well, which is darkness in itself. And that whale had gone to the depths of the ocean. And Jordan, I'm highlighting this because Muslims, practicing or not, many of you have not experienced those depths of darkness. And trust me, many of us who have experienced that, some have come to Islam, the level of mental resolve you need to have to repair yourself from that, and the mental well-being that you lose through the drugs, through the distraction, through things to numb yourself, stays with you. It stays with you.
No, it's definitely not something you can just dip your feet in. It swallows you up, and like you say, it stays with you. You know, I completely agree. And I think the other thing I get asked by born Muslims quite a lot, wa alaikum salam, Khan, what is and I find this unbelievable. I get a lot of born Muslims asking me, and it says a lot about their mindset, perhaps. And I think this is normally less practicing born Muslims, but they'll say things like, you know, you're now living by rules when before you had all these freedoms. So you've given up your freedom and now you're living by a set of rules. And I feel the complete opposite. I really do. I feel like I've escaped a world where I was in many ways conditioned and forced into many things, you know, that, and now I'm free from that. So as a Muslim, I follow, obviously I've submitted to Allah, but I feel freer, a lot freer. Like the shackles are off from all of the pressures and all the things of the world that I was in before. And I don't know if it ever makes sense to anyone. I know you understand it, but it's genuinely true. So. And
the Sahaba spoke about that as well with coming to the deen, Jordan. No, I do. That resonates totally. The freedom that I feel as a Muslim, the freedom that I have one God. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that level of mental, spiritual, physical freedom that we only submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no freedom like that. There's nothing that I'm attached to which I hold in devotion and worship like we used to do than we have with Allah. So Tawheed in itself is that it's the epitome of freedom. SubhanAllah, what you've just said is so profound that I'm free. I know what it is to be free. We used to go through things where near-death experiences, where you would see the person wants to humiliate you, whether that's putting a gun to your head and wanting you to submit to him, or at that moment in time, or threatening your life to humiliate you, to get you to behave in a particular way, trembling or head down, and we wouldn't. And I'd like to think that's our fitra, because like, this is not happening. But then when you bow like when I first bowed in prayer and I first went into prostration in prayer, and I felt that total submission. And I said to myself, now I'm worshiping. Now I'm worshiping. And that feeling has never left me. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Yeah. I think we covered quite a lot there, mashallah.
We have, and we've come up to the hour mark. And Jordan, I didn't know. I didn't know it was going to be.
I could speak to you for hours.
No, likewise. And when we meet in the flesh, soy people,
we'll have to leave a whole day.
We're gonna, you and me will go out to the countryside somewhere. Make sure we got our flask and we got our soft drinks and whatever we're gonna take with us, and we're chill and just talk to our heart's content. Inshallah. Inshallah. No, Jordan, Jazakallah khair. I've look, it's 4 o'clock in the morning for me now, and having heard you and listened to you, I'm going to get ready for suhoor. But this has been, for my soul, this has been, if I was fasting today, this is an aspect that's replenished my soul, speaking with you and hearing your experiences, mashallah.
These are conversations, even speaking to you, I haven't spoken to people, so things are coming up. Obviously, you can't say everything that comes into your mind, but, you're kind of reliving and going through it. And hopefully people benefit from it.
Absolutely. This is why we're doing it. We want to share so that others can benefit from us on this, inshallah. And I'm looking forward to seeing you next week, same time, inshallah.
Inshallah.
We'll have more to talk about, another focus which we can take forward, inshallah. And really good to see some regulars there. Obviously, it's your platform as well, and Newcastle Fuss, and there's some newbies for me, maybe not for yourself.
Amazing lineup you guys have organized, or the Newcastle FM have organized the Taraway, and there's reminders every day. Mashallah, got it all covered, haven't they?
No, alhamdulillah, they're doing a great job. And I think that as well, Jordan, Jazakallah khair for you opening it up on your platform, EF Dawah being here as well. The more we reach, hopefully with sincerity, we just want everyone to benefit from us, and we want to benefit from you as well. Those of you sharing your experiences, your comments, we are looking at your comments coming up and everything. We appreciate you, and we're glad to be doing this Ramadan with you, mashallah, tabarakallah. So I'll say, Jordan, I'm going to say Assalamu alaikum to you at this particular point, and to everyone here now. And look forward to seeing you next week. And hopefully we're going to be another week in fasting, inshallah. Don't forget to accrue that reward. Get that reward, people. If it's 1 o'clock in the morning for you now and you haven't done tahajjud or you didn't do tarawih and you haven't done witr, do even 1 rakah. Do something extra. Because we're in the month of Ramadan and the blessings are there, and the shayateen are chained, and the gates of paradise are open. Let's just keep doing more, inshallah. During this month especially. Jazakallah khair, Jordan.
Jazakallah khair.
I'll speak to you next week, inshallah.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.